Oprah Winfrey hosted Kamala Harris at a virtual Unite America rally, and it was basically just the most softball of interviews you could possibly see. Now, the whole thing lasted about an hour and a half, and Kamala Harris actually didn't come on stage until about 20 minutes after the event started. And then, of course, she couldn't help herself but devolve into cackling and word salad answers, which, of course, we're going to highlight for you today. So before we begin, please remember to like and comment so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
What's your question? It's an immigration question.
My question for you is, when you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border. And let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief, which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here, so I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country, and the need to take seriously stemming the flow coming into our country and addressing that extraordinary and tragic issue in terms of its effect. The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. And it would have been part of the solution. And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And he has put his personal political security before border security. Because understand, even in the intervening months, what that bill would have done to give support to folks who care about this issue. And this again gets to the point about what does leadership really look like? And is it about you or is it about the people? Right. Is it about running on problems or fixing problems? My work and my career has always been about saying, let's fix problems. Let's address the needs, because we know it's within our capacity to do that.
So to answer Justin's question, now that that bill has gone and hasn't passed, will you reintroduce that?
Absolutely, and when I am elected President of the United States, I will make sure that bill gets to my desk and I will sign it into law.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
So Kamala Harris goes right away into her word salad answer, which, by the way, was the same answer she gave at the debate, the same speech she gave at the DNC. And basically, she also did not answer the question until Oprah Winfrey jumped in right at the end and said, so what would you do? Would you pass that bill? And Kamala's like, oh, yeah, that's right. To answer the question about what I would do, I would totally pass that border bill, which, by the way, she hits Donald Trump over. 1,500 more agents at the border for processing. All right, not for stopping people coming into this country illegally, not for actually securing the border, but for processing people into this country. And also, don't forget, nearly 2 million illegals would be allowed into this country every single year, thus completely overwhelming the system and depleting our state's resources. But, however, by the way, it's good to know that, do you remember that Kamala was a prosecutor, right? And she went after transnational organizations. She's got experience in this kind of thing. Yeah, except for the fact that you didn't close the border or handle any of the issues as borders are for the last 3.5 years. So good job, Kamala.
So, Madam Vice President, we are, like many young Americans, just experiencing a very high cost of living. We ended up giving up our apartment, moving in with our parents who were so gracious to take us in for over a year so that we could save money and ultimately buy a home, because that's what we thought the American dream was, to get married and buy a home and have a baby. And now here we are, and our mortgage is incredibly higher than what we thought it would be. And my sister and our brother-in-law are living with us right now so that they can hopefully one day do the same. And while it's beneficial for us because they help us pay off some of our mortgage, it's also beneficial for them because they can save on cheaper rent. But we really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries. So that's why I'm taking on, for example, price gouging, which is when, most companies and corporations are good, but for those bad ones, they take advantage of people, especially during a pandemic or extreme weather, and they end up jacking up prices, and there needs to be accountability and consequence for that. So I'm going to be taking on price gouging. But it's also about dealing with what we need to do around home ownership, right? So as someone mentioned during this film, look, I grew up a child of a mother who worked very hard. She raised me and my sister, and she saved up, and by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy a home. And we grew up actually for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center that was owned by the woman we called our second mother, because she helped my mother raise us. And she was a small business owner, Miss Shelton. So I'll bring all this together to tell you the way I think about it is, one, when people work hard and have a dream of buying a home, we should give you the opportunity to be able to do that, which is why part of my plan is for first-time homeowners, buyers, to have a $25,000 down payment assistance to buy your first home. Because people just need to be able to get their foot in the door, and then you'll do the hard work. Part of my plan is what we need to do to support small businesses, because my second mother was a small business owner, and I love our small businesses and our small business owners. They are not only business leaders, they are community leaders. They mentor, they hire locally, and we have so many entrepreneurs in our country who have great ideas, incredible work ethic, but not necessarily access to capital, because not everybody, like my opponent, was handed $400 million on a silver plate that he filed bankruptcy 6 times on. And so part of my plan is to give startup small businesses a $50,000 tax deduction to start up their small business. Right now it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So that's part of my plan.
That's a teeny-tiny business.
That's a business in
teeny-tiny business.
It's a concept of a business, right?
Yes.
You know where I'm going.
That's right.
And
it's still on paper with the $5,000.
Right.
It's still on paper.
It just hasn't happened,
Right.
Part of to speak to you guys and your family and your dreams is what we need to do around giving middle-class families tax breaks. And so part of my plan is also to extend and expand the child tax credit to $6,000 so that you can, in the first year of your child's life, have the resources to be able to buy a crib and a car seat and clothes for your baby, knowing that's such an extraordinarily important time in their development, and you shouldn't have to worry about how you're going to take care of their basic needs. All of this and more is part of what I plan to build, and I call it an opportunity economy. And it's basically about creating opportunities, knowing so many people have the ambition, have the aspirations, are working hard, but just need opportunity to reach their goals and their dreams.
I saw you smiling with that $25,000 credit for the home.
Oh, Kamala, this is a complete self-own at the beginning of her answer, right? She acknowledges that she's traveling around the country and people are saying that, hey, the economy's not doing so good. Times are tough. Things are expensive. And guess who's been in control the whole time? It's been Biden-Harris. This is insane. The disconnect between the two is truly amazing to see, but fake it till you make it, right? Now, of course, she's asked about what she would do to bring down prices, right? Because costs are simply way too much. And it all boils down to price gouging, right? It's those horrible people who have raised prices, and we're going to go after them to make sure they're lowering their prices, right? She's not going to produce more. She's not going to cheapen energy. She's not going to stop overspending, right? All of those things would actually help the economy, help inflation, help bring down prices, but she's not going to do any of that. Instead, she's going to take taxpayer dollars and offer 3 million people $25,000 each to buy that first home. But of course, that would only cost taxpayers $75 billion, right? But of course, if you really want to talk about bringing down the price of housing, you would maybe get rid of the 20 million illegals that are here taking up our current housing. Just a thought, right? But don't worry, Kamala is going to give us that same story again about how her mother had to work really hard to save up her money and then buy her first home when Kamala was a teenager. Okay, something we've all heard before. So basically what we have there is no answers, government handouts. And although I agree with lowering taxes, right, what she wants to do is offer that $6,000 child tax credit for the first year only, instead of making them permanent across the board for while you're raising your children. So not real solutions, not great answers, and once again, a complete word salad.
Hi, Madam Vice President. Hi, Oprah. I'm 24 years old. I'm a graduate student living with my parents, and I want to move out next year and potentially buy a home. And I'm concerned about the affordability of one with the extra costs and bills that I'm paying now, along with the bills and costs I will pay in the future too. And so everything just has a cost and everything is so expensive. And so I'm worried about my capacity and how I'm able to fully support myself once I do live independently.
You sound like one of my daughter girls from South Africa graduated. She was like, I hate adulting. I hate adulting. This adulting isn't going so well. Yes.
Well, so first of all, congratulations on all the success you've already achieved. And it is your story and the story of our friends before you is really, that's the American story, right? You are working hard, you have goals, you have ambitions. And so part of it is, again, the $25,000 down payment assistance. Part of it is what we need to do to also push back against a very different vision for our country. Because look, in this election, there are two very different visions for our country. One, for me, that is focused on the future, including you, and another that is focused on the past. What Donald Trump, what my opponent plans on doing for the economy is doing what he did the last time he was president and giving another tax break for billionaires and the biggest corporations that would add $5 trillion to our deficit. And get this, he plans on doing what I call a Trump sales tax, which is basically he's going to put a 20% tax on everyday necessities that economists have estimated will cost the average American $4,000 more a year, which is why Goldman Sachs, which is why Moody's, which is why Wharton School of Business, which is why 16 Nobel laureates have collectively determined, after analyzing our plans, one, mine would strengthen the economy, his would weaken it. Two, that on his plan, he would actually blow up inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. So when you think about the cost of living, my approach is about lifting you up. His would be about actually weakening our economy. And I feel very strongly when an individual, when a small business, when a family, when the middle class is strong, America is strong.
Another complete self-own. Kamala comes out and says that her vision is about the future, which is essentially more of the same, more of the Biden-Harris policies, okay? The stuff that has led to all of these increased prices, high inflation, cost of living, right? This is all bad stuff. And then Trump, he represents the past. Yes, back when stuff was affordable, when things were cheap, when America was safe and secure, that's a past I would love to go back to. But don't worry. Kamala has got 15 Nobel Prize winning economists saying that her plan is better. That sounds an awful lot like 200 intelligence officials signing off on certain laptops being Russian disinformation, right? But also she repeats the lie that Goldman Sachs actually rated her as being much better for the economy and Trump being a detriment, when in fact the head of Goldman Sachs himself came out and said that she has misrepresented their findings. What they did is ran their policies through a couple of numbers, and Kamala Harris's might have been a touch better according to what they were expecting the result to be. But of course, I don't really believe that either, because all you have to do to compare Kamala Harris to Donald Trump is look at the state of the economy now versus the state of the economy back then. Case closed. It's over.
I think for far too long on the issue of gun violence, some people have been pushing a really false choice to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and I'm in favor of assault weapons bans, universal background checks, red flag laws. And these are just common sense. These are just common sense.
I thought it was so powerful at the convention when you when you said you have guns. No, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes. I hear that. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that. But my staff will deal with that later.
Yeah. But you have been a gun owner for a while.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
But here's my point, Oprah, is that I'm not trying to take everyone's guns away. I believe in the Second Amendment, but we have to agree that, look, I did last fall a college tour with college-age young people, so I also did trade schools. And packed audience every time in their auditorium, and I would ask, please raise your hand if at any point between kindergarten and 12th grade you had to endure an active shooter drill. Almost every hand went up. It was bone-chilling.
Yeah, this is the way our kids are living. Yeah.
And think about it. You know, I grew up, we had fire drills only. Well, I grew up in California. We also had earthquake drills. But the fact that our children are sitting in a classroom where they should be fulfilling their God-given potential and exploring the wonders of the world, and some part of their brain realizes somebody could bust through that classroom door with a weapon, with an assault weapon. And let's all agree that the trauma, so many children, even those who have not directly experienced the tragedy.
Just being in the environment. Being in the environment.
I cannot tell you the number of young people who, I mean, our kids had active shooter drills. They're concerned that there might be somebody who would kill them while they are at school. This is not the sign of a civil society, and it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. But we need to have the courage to act. I mean, look, my opponent, when he was told and knew about a shooting of a young girl, you know what he said? Get over it. Get over it. No, we're not getting over it. No, and to the point, everyone should have a sense of collective responsibility for the children of our community.
Yes.
And understand their right to live and be safe. I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I know, I've seen autopsies. I've seen what these weapons do to the human body. And we've got to agree that, in particular when we're talking about something like an assault weapon, it's literally designed to be a tool of war. It has no place on the streets of a civil society. It's designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. And there are things we can do. I mean, thankfully, over the last 3 years, we've done some, but it is common sense.
It just seems like common sense we would see this. I think that the majority of Americans agree with you that we do not want assault weapons in the hands of children and other people who have no business with those types of weapons.
Right.
We know this is true.
So once again, Oprah Winfrey has to come to the rescue of Kamala Harris, which has dug herself deep down in the word salad, okay? And I find it hilarious that Kamala is actually saying, you can be pro-Second Amendment and want to take away everyone's assault rifles. Not even a real term, okay? But also she mentions, these are made for war zones. No, they're not, all right? Most of the assault rifles that we're talking about, the assault weapons, are weapons that have been modified from the official weapons the Army carries. You know, the ones that Tim Walz never took into Iraq, okay? So these are all basically sporting rifles is what they're categorized as. And if you take them away, what we have in the southern states and in Texas is a huge problem with, say, wild hogs, feral hogs, which are destroying property and killing people, okay? So you're going to take away people's right to defend themselves with something that is accurate and has a high magazine capacity. That's exactly what Kamala Harris wants to do, because in her mind, she could never actually see a reason to have one. Okay, so this is completely ridiculous. And remember, just a couple of days ago at the National Association of Black Journalists, she actually said she wanted to take away the assault rifles there as well. But then she said, you know what? I'm really going to sidestep the question of handguns, despite the fact that handguns are used far and away more in shootings, etc., than assault rifles. But we don't want to get in the way of Kamala Harris when she's out there spitting facts fast and loose, right? And I hate to burst her bubble, but guess what? We already have universal background checks. Whenever you go to buy a gun, what happens? You have to fill out that form with the FBI to get that background check every single time. So that's already there. Of course, Kamala and Oprah failed to discuss the root causes of all of these mass shooting events. And that's basically that we have a breakdown in morality in this country. There is no more black and white, right and wrong. There is no more value on human life. And above all, we no longer treat mental illness. We assign a bunch of drugs and hope that they do the job, getting people doped up, etc. on these antipsychotics, which are anything but. So Kamala's stances are the usual leftist garbage that want to basically disarm the American public because she's a leftist Marxist, right? So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.